Okay, hi. Uh, I'm Maciek. I work for a quite a big software agency that's located in Rzeszów in Wrocław. And, it's the company that has many Java guys, C# guys, even specialized front-end team that does a lot of JavaScript. And we're located right, right here, if you don't know where Rzeszów is. And let's start. When I came there a couple of years ago, I was just a junior Java programmer interested in Ruby, and it was quite frustrated that I had to write in Java. And I wanted to do something with that. And let's get back to this 2012 and the old bad joke: how many Ruby developers from Rzeszów in 2012 would fit to the elevator? Yes, all of them. So it is a kind of vicious circle, because when you have no developers, there are no companies, and with no companies, no one wants to learn the technology. So I wanted to do something with that, because I didn't want to be a Java guy. So there was a little number of Ruby devs in Rzeszów at that time, and fortunately, there were some enthusiasts on Rzeszów University of Technology that taught Ruby, and I used that as a leverage, as an opportunity to teach Ruby as well. I gave some talks, some lectures, and I invited students to internship. And as at that time, I was not a Java developer, but a lone Ruby developer in our company. Or maybe there were two of us after some trainings and some recruitment. We were able to do the internship program, and that's the declarative way of the presentation. The what? Our students does potentially usable applications that are devised by us. The aim is to teach them how to deal with the client, so that they do something that we request instead of something that they just came up with. We start to teach with the Rails way, because we wanted to teach them the basics, and we wanted them to give we want to give them the fresh start and a feeling that they can actually do something fast. And later, with the growing system, we teach them all the more advanced stuff, like service objects, decorators, and clean architecture. During the internship, they also have to do Ruby assignment, so that they learn not only the framework, but also the more advanced concepts from the language that are maybe hard to grasp during the web development. And by the way of the internship, we teach them the tools that we use in our work, like Jira, like Git, Capistrano, and some deployment stuff. And that's now the imperative part, what we do. And the process is based on Scrum. It's Scrum, but, because it's just internship. We do dailies to sync. We plan each 1 week sprint, so that the interns have a feeling that they can estimate something. We all know that estimating is hard, but sometimes we just need to do that to predict our work. On the end of each week, they do a review to demonstrate working up and to get the feedback. Again, it's a part when we play the role of the client, so that they can customize the application, that can adapt the application for our requirements. And they also do retrospectives, so that they can look back and decide what to change. We Whoa.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So, what are the things that annoy you in the CI servers? I have two. They are slow, and we have random failures. And of course, we could argue that we should write our tests in a proper way. They should be decoupled. We should take care of that. But life shows us that we don't always have this opportunity. So here's the crazy thing. Why not kill two birds with one stone? Why don't have a CI server that can smartly distribute your work, divide it into chunks, and run them in isolation on separate machines? And if we can do that, we can run them in parallel, and we can have them isolated in some way, so the problems are partially solved. If we add retries to the soup, we will end up with protecting from random failures, because the more times you retry, the more failures you eliminate, and you can calculate probabilities for that if you're fancy. So I have news for you. There is a CI server that has that. It's called Cider. So if you want to check it out, go to cider-ci.info and learn. You can deploy it on the cloud. It's open source, written in Clojure. You can configure it in using YAML, and you can do lots of interesting stuff with it. Oh, I have a lot of time left. So, sorry, I stand here. Well, here's some basic concepts. We have jobs. Jobs are run my RSpec suite. We have tasks. Tasks are run my single spec file. And the tasks are composed from a set of scripts, which you can think as of steps. So run bundles, set up Postgres, and run RSpec command. Now, the scripts the tasks are run on the separate executors, which just aggregate the states and rerun failed trials. And to make it even better, there is a gem which can help you with configuration your CI, which can generate your configuration. It's called Ciderizer, so I recommend you check it out. Any questions? Cider-ci.info. Maybe write it here. Yeah, I can't type. It's ugly, but well. What's the price? It's open source and it's free. Well, the hosting is the price. We host it on Amazon Cloud, but it works. You can easily set it up with tools like Ansible, so it's quite easy. More questions? No? Well, then that's it.
Hello, guys. Who has to estimate projects? Do you like it? Who likes it? Who likes it? One hand, two hands, okay. That's what I expected. Yeah, I don't like it too. It's time consuming, it's boring, and more often than not, it just feels like a complete waste of time. And there's a client perspective to that also. But that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem with estimating is that it just doesn't work. And that's because of many reasons. One of those is this thing called the planning fallacy. And this is a theory that states that we as humans are just underestimating time needed to complete tasks, despite knowing and having experienced that they in the past taken longer than, and we just do it. We just let's just face it. We just suck at estimating big time as humans and developers, obviously. So my name is Tomek. I work at Lunar Logic in Krakow, and I suck at estimating. So at Lunar, we come up with this idea, with this tool, to make estimates a bit better. It's not a perfect tool. It's not like giving us super exact answers. The idea is that it's just better than human guessing and human estimating, and it's good enough. And since like a year, we are doing all the estimations for our clients using this approach. And it's called data-driven forecasts or estimates. We use both terms. So let me just quickly explain how it works. We need some data. It's data-driven, so we need some data. This is usually, well, if you have an ongoing project, you can use previous data from the same project, like previous sprints or previous features. If there's a new project, we usually just reuse data from other projects, past projects, with a similar team or desirably the same team. So you can see this is like a 5-day sprint. Those are tasks, and those purple numbers are work in progress. And let's say our client wants to estimate another 10 stories. So we just get those lead times, the numbers, the length of the tasks. And we just randomly draw 10 numbers out of them. We add them up. These are the story points. Then we take the work in progress values. Can you hear me still with this? And we just run a simulation. Like we just randomly draw the work in progress day by day until we like kind of complete the whole 28 story points. And this gives us 15 days. So this is like a one simulated estimate. Oh, sorry. And then we do it 10,000 times. And then we do a histogram of this. And then we see how many of, like, where's the day that the 50% of simulations ended. And this is like a 12 days. And then we do the same for 90% of simulations. So it's like 14 days for the 10 tasks. And then we give this to our client. So we have a 50% chance deadline and a 90% chance deadline. And you can do it too, because we've made a simple tool out of this. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Adam, and I would like to take that opportunity to briefly talk about Spree Commerce open source project. I'm a member of Spark Solution team. We're based in Warsaw, specialized in e-commerce applications, and we are proud members of Spree core development team. So the Spree is a Rails-based e-commerce engine. It's available on GitHub. It's open sourced. It provides both front-end and back-end capabilities for an online store. It has over 16,000 commits on GitHub from over 600 contributors, and it's one of the top 20 most stored projects on GitHub. The first version of Spree was released back in 2007 by Sean Schofield. And today, amongst others, Spark Solution is responsible for maintaining the development of Spree Commerce. We are open to contributions. We are actively looking for new core development members. We are also actively working on the development of the solution, and within the next few weeks, we plan on releasing the 3.1 version of the engine. So quickly about the features of the engine. The list of the RESTful API pretty much gives you an idea of what is included in the project. I'm not gonna go into the details, but pretty much the bullet points give you a broad idea on the capabilities of the engine. So the important question is why we as developers should use Spree for our work. So the first thing is it's in Ruby. So it's really easy for Ruby developers to learn how to use it. The second thing, the out-of-the-box solution, out-of-the-box Spree Commerce, satisfies most of the needs of a client who's seeking for an e-commerce application. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. We as Spark Solution contribute to the on a GitHub with the starter kit that contains Rails, Spree, React.js, Redux, as well as Webpack and Hot Reload, which basically provides you with the whole stack that is required to develop a modern one-pager e-commerce store. And the last but not the least, we're on Slack. If you run into any problems, if you need some help, we're there to help you. So I encourage you to go ahead and try this from GitHub. You can download it from the official repository, and you could try the starter kit provided by Spark Solution. The starter kit is really easy to use. You just need 3 commands to install it, and then you're ready to go. So you can, if you have fast computer, you can do it under one minute. Yeah, and I encourage you to reach out. Let's hook up. We are actively looking for new core members. The project is actively being developed all around the world, in India and Poland. And it would be superb to welcome other programmers in that project. So if you got any questions, just go ahead to our Slack channel, join our Slack team. You can ask the questions over there. If you would like to contribute, that's even better. Go to Slack, join us. And if you would like to learn more about Spree Commerce today, you can ask me if I'm still around, or we could hook up in the pub in the evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so hello everyone. It's like quite a lot of you here, so it's super cool for me. My name is Adam, and I run my own company called Sunday Coding. And today I would like to tell you a bit about e-tag tracking. So let's start with cookies. We all love cookies, and they are like a really important part of the modern web. Can you imagine like a website in 2016 with this without this annoying cookie pop-up? I just can't, you know. But seriously, cookies are important because they allow us to store the state between requests. So they are also important because they allow us to track the users. This is a mechanism which can be used for tracking. But cookies have some issues. For instance, the users are like increasingly aware that the cookies are used for tracking, so they may decide to block certain types of cookies, like the third-party cookies, and we will not be able to track them like easily. Or you may encounter some issues with cookies when you try to make it work with iframes. So, no more cookies, and enter e-tag tracking. But what exactly is e-tag? eTag is part of the HTTP protocol, and it's basically cache validation mechanism. Let's say your browser makes a request for some static resource, like an image, and then web server responds with this image, and it also includes eTag header in the response, which somehow represents like a checksum of this image. And next time your web browser happens to make the request for the same image, and it is inside its cache, it just sends this value with the request, and the server compares these two values. And if like the current value is the same as the value sent by your browser, then it returns 3 or 4 not modified response, which means that the browser may use the copy from cache. So it looks like cookies. We send something to the client, and the client sends it back to us after some time. So like the really tricky and really important thing here is how you generate this eTag, like this mechanism for generating eTag, is not part of any specification. So it's like entirely up to the web server how to generate this eTag. And usually it's a checksum, because it really makes sense when it's a checksum. When it's a checksum, when the content of the image changes, when the checksum changes, so cache is invalidated. But we can make it unique for every user. Yeah, let's stop here on the slide, it's like really, really important. We can make it unique for every new user. So when we get a user without a header, we know it's a first-time visitor. So we may generate some random value, store it somewhere, and just send it as an eTag header. Then, when we have a user which sends this value back, so we know it's a returning visitor, and we have this value, and we can associate this user with any previous request. So we have tracking entirely without cookies, which like works everywhere and users are unaware of, and it's like really hard to block it. And basically that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. Just going on with our discussion panel, I just want to show you some more stuff about RubyMine, and this time I want to show some features that you probably don't know even if you use RubyMine. So let's start with different view modes. You can switch to destruction-free mode, and it looks like that. Or you can switch even to presentation mode, and it looks like that. You can also use Shift-Command-A to find any ID action, for example, to split vertically your editor, or to unsplit that. And in this destruction-free mode, the great way to navigate is to use Command-E to see all the recent files and all the tool windows, or you can use it with Shift, and you will see all recently edited files. And if you start typing here, you can search and go to the file you need. Let's take a look on this code a little bit. A lot of code blocks that are similar. We can just select them with this shrink selection, and we can save them as a code snippet, as a live template. So let's let it be some error, and I'm going to place a variable like a message here and here. Now you can save it, and here in your file you can just use Command-G, and with all the predefined code snippets you can use your own one. Here it is, and where we have message, we now can just type, and when clicking tab, we go to our end snippet position. So here it is. We can also change the code style of this file in one click. And if you want to see what the difference, you can preview it or go to this diff view. And in this diff view, you can actually change something right in this diff view, not going back to the editor. And you can reverse something partly in this diff view as well. One more thing, you can use find usages to see all the usages of your methods, variables, whatever. Let's go there. Okay. Or even if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, you can use Command B. It is go to declaration shortcut. So you can go to declaration and go further, choose what declaration you need, actually. And no matter inside the project scope or outside, you can go deeper and deeper. And the last thing I want to show is that you can actually run your tests in a debug mode as well. Let's do. And you can move it like right to see it and make it here. So you can see our running testing UI. So we now stop on a breakpoint, and we can see all the variables here, like errors, message. And now we can step through our code, and our variables are changing accordingly. And we can see what is going on with our tests. Okay, like filtering, we can see that the test was failed. And actually, we can go back to the place where it was failed. Yes, let's just make it here. Here it is. So that's the basic features you may probably don't know. If you want to see something more features to see, just grab me. I will make you a personal demo. So that's it.
So I'm not. I'd have lots of things to say, but I gave a talk about SonicPy last year, and I talked a little bit too much maybe, and I didn't show you some things, and not everybody was there. So I'd like to show you SonicPy. It's if you don't know, it's a piece of software you write Ruby code in, and then you get sound out. So I'll just play 5 minutes, and then you will tell me to go, or you can tell me to go before if you want. If you want to make it bigger, I can. Oof. loud, no? It's okay. Good.
Hello, my name is Michał Zając. I'm working in Anix Polska. I have an idea to make rubbish Ruby code consent, so I organized it. And what is interesting, we get only 4 examples of bad code. I have no idea why. Maybe because code quality still gets better and better, or maybe it's hard to be impressed by code. I don't know why. So the good news is everyone gets t-shirt. Please ask me after the lighting talk, and we have t-shirt for everyone. So let's start with something really simple. Okay, so this is code I suppose every one of us has seen, has written, and has refactor. Nothing special. This is standard beginner Ruby code, especially this line. This may be a little tricky. So it's bad, but it's not a horror. Okay, let's get deeper. It is interesting. I don't know the context, and I have no idea why one did something like that. Maybe the author and the person who found it can say me what happens here. Oh, I know what happens here, but I don't know why. Anyone have idea? Maybe. Okay, but it's definitely interesting, and constant is illusion. Yeah. The next one is another const operations and metaprogramming. As I see, the power of Ruby comes from metaprogramming, as we can see on the previous example, and as we see here, we have some interesting operation on constants. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't manage to run it, but I'm sure it works and it earns money. So this is what we want from code. Another interesting constant operations, and it is ERB. So as you can see, even in Vue, we can make something magic. Okay, And the last one is, I hope it is not really production code. But still it's some kind of masterpiece. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, can you see this? Okay. Any comments? It works. I've managed to run it. I did it in Vagrant from security reasons. Because after 10 minutes analyze, I was not sure what will happen with my machine. But it it works, I can run it. Yeah. Here is input file. So this is some good part of working code. You can run it, you can reuse it. I don't know what about this licensing, but I think it is GPL and you can do everything with this. Even Chuck Norris tried to do something here. Okay, and this code is quite old, so... Okay, so it's all from my side. If you want to talk with me about some refactoring techniques, but I have no idea. Yes, you can remove the first line and it still works. Yeah. So I'm good at refactoring.
Hello, my name is Martin, and you heard my colleague Yannick speaking yesterday about CodeBeat, and I'm one of the other guys at CodeBeat. There are two of us, and by the way, we analyze Ruby, and we love people who write code like that, like the one that I was shown before. Like Ruby was by far the most difficult language to analyze because people do crazy shit in Ruby, and Ruby allows that. Which is why we love Ruby, right? We still haven't started with JavaScript. Talk to me in a year and I'll probably have a different opinion. So what we do, we essentially analyze a number of languages. We do static analysis, and our stack is kind of fucked up because we do Python, we do Java, Ruby, Go, we'll do Node.js, we'll do Objective-C, C++, and God knows what else, and probably Elixir someday because I really want that. What we need to do is communicate between all those languages, essentially do the parsing, the native parsing in a language, and then export something for the analysis. And the analysis is performed in Go for the most part. And we need strong guarantees that communication between all these languages is good. There's some message integrity and efficiency is paramount. And the first things that comes to your mind, what would be the solution to communicate between all these languages? What is the lingua franca of the internet? JSON, right. JSON has great cross-language support. Every language that is worth its salt supports JSON. But if you ever had to work with JSON, deeply embedded or recursive structures, you know what a pain it is. It requires a non-trivial amount of boilerplate to access properties in JSON, and it's schemaless, so it provides no guarantees. One language can export a different format of JSON than the other. It has no guarantees about types, it has no guarantees about the structure of a message. Things will get hairy very, very quickly. So what is the other option? Obviously XML, right? And XML is not too bad. I mean, I can't believe that I'm talking about, XML being good in front of a Ruby crowd. Don't beat me up. But XML has traditionally better tooling. It has XSD for schema validation, XSLT for data manipulation, XPath for sophisticated data access. It's fantastic. Now, please give me a nice boo. Except it's extremely verbose. In order to have like an array of 5 items, don't even get me there. It doesn't generate native code. Libraries are often super clumsy. Try to do it in a functional language, and God forbid. And it's enterprise, right? We don't like enterprise. We're Ruby people. We don't like enterprise. So what do? We do IDLs. IDL is an interface description language. Originally, these were designed for large distributed projects. Corba is the original implementation that gave IDLs a bad rap. Like if you look at Corba, your eyes will bleed out. So don't do that. I want you to retain your sight. But over time, these got much simpler and much better. And with things like protocol buffers, especially V3 or Facebook with Facebook Drift V2, these are actually nice things. So how we use protocol buffers, we essentially pretty much open source our entire data model. But for example, a part of a report that gets generated from code looks like this. There's a namespace, it has a language, it's an enum, so there's always like a nicely defined language. There's a name, GPA, which is a score, and then an array of other messages, which are issues, which are things that appear once in the code, and similarities, which appear in two places in the code, function count, complexity, and this is not a programming language, right? This is just an interface definition language. So by definition, right, it's fucking worthless, right? Except when magic happens is when you compile it. When you compile it, it generates native code. And the native code goes for Java, Python, C++, Objective-C, Go, blah, 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 blah. All of these are official implementations, right? But the protocol, the binary protocol, the serialization protocol is open source. So a lot of unofficial support happens for example, Erlang. I'm not sure if there's one in Brainfuck, but I'm sure you can figure it out. There's one for JavaScript, which is pretty good. Unofficial, but brilliant. So if you use it in Ruby, it looks like Rails' own active model. You pretty much assign things to properties, and these are type safe. So if repo URL is defined as a string and you try to assign it in an integer, it'll say, "Boo, you're a bad person," right? And that goes recursively. So it's really familiar to Rails people and Ruby people. If you want to read something from standard input and decode it, right. Thank you.
My name is Mateusz Sagan, and let's talk about clients. Actually, that's a lie. Let's not talk about clients. Let's talk about developers. Because I really enjoy meeting new people and talking about, stuff, work, exchanging experiences. And the best experiences to share are the worst experiences because we learn from each other's mistakes, right? And once we get past bitching about JavaScript and Rails, and once we've had N+1 beers, we start to get to the non-tech stuff. And actually, a lot of us have difficulties with communicating with clients, and this is something very bad. If you've never had a bad situation with a client, then feel free to browse Facebook for the next 4 minutes because, well, you don't need this, right? And this is not a silver bullet. This is not a presentation that will solve all your problems. This is just 3 key principles that I believe in. So if you've ever looked at your client and seen something like this, then probably the client was looking at you and seeing something like this. So this is a bad thing. Let's not go there, right? If we're here, let's fix it. If we're not here, let's never go to this place because this is bad. And this is the CPR with your client, right? The communication, patience, and respect. This is the 3 key principles that I believe will solve every problem, or not every problem, but most problems. The first one, the most important one, is, of course, communication. And you can do a couple of things here. First of all, streamline your communication channels, which means pick one communication channel where everything ends up, be it Trello, Pivotal Tracker, Slack, whatever. Pick one place where you don't have to look through emails, communications, talks, remember conferences. Just make sure all of this makes it to one place. Plus, make sure you understand each other, because don't even hesitate to ask the same question 3 times in a different way, just to get the same answer. Because it's vital that you know what they want and they know what you're doing, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Plus, this is a good tip I learned the hard way. Take notes from every meeting. And after you've taken the notes, send them over to your client and ask if this is what we want. Because then, if you do what the notes said, you have your back covered if they don't like it, right? But this is what you said you liked. And this is a very good summary of this. It's always better to spend 10 minutes on explaining things than 3 hours of coding the wrong things. Okay, the second thing is patience. Remember that the client is not always a programmer. This does not mean they're stupid. This does not mean that they are unable to understand things. They are just smart in different areas than we are. And remember that you have all this background, the knowledge, the patterns, all this stuff. They have virtually no background in this. So they don't know about patterns. They don't care how you solve the problem. All they care about is how if the problem is solved. So for them, a simple fix might mean that they expect you to take 10 minutes on it. For you, it might be 10 hours of refactoring. So as it is their job to explain to you what they want, it's your job to explain to them why it's a bad idea or why it's a good idea or how to do it and how long it's going to take. And the last thing, is the respect, which means showing them that you care about their product, that you don't want it to fail. And how do we do this? For example, always take cue from your old experiences, right? From software that you've used. Try to propose some new features for them. Show them that you want this to succeed. And if you show them that you're on their side, then all of this becomes way easier because they're not thinking that you're trying to screw them out of their money or something like that, right? And always remember, these people are not only putting their business, their livelihood in your hands, among others, but also they cater for you. They pay for your bills, they pay for your food. So please respect them and try to trust them. Not 100%, but keep it a steady 80. And I guess that's it. Thank you very much. Whew, made it.
I want to talk about a little bit Grape and Grape Swagger, especially Grape Swagger. This fills the gap between Grape and Swagger. We are seeing Grape right now. Grape is a micro framework to build up APIs based on Ruby. Could be used basically on every framework, a web framework, such as Rails, Sinatra, or simple Rec. That's one. And Swagger, formerly, it's known as Swagger now it's named OpenAPI. It's an industry standard to describe APIs and to communicate how my API behaves, what I expect as parameters, what can you expect by exposing as a response, and so on. And Grape Swagger fills the gap. I did a little bit wrong. I should have to synchronize the screens. Now, okay. At the moment, we have a Swagger 2 branch, because Swagger 2 is out since more than a year, and we did many work to support this actual version of a spec and to document your API. It's actual and maintenance by Daniel Dubrovkin. Oh, and please have a look in 1 or 2 weeks when this branch should be moved out and replace the actual master branch. So, what can you expect from it? Simple. We are starting with... that's easier. Okay. A simple example, it's a simple API based on Rec. You have your config root, then you have describing your endpoints describing would be given a namespace, describe what's going on as an array, which HTTP codes you can expect, and then what's going on here. So I'm always prefer to use Grape Entity, where you can describe what to expect, so you can reuse all the stuff and not, as we've seen in it, how is the editor, Redmine editor, to always repeat yourself. Yeah, that's why a grape entity comes in. And this all, oops, where's my console? Starting, and this all runs a simple API. First we create something, blah, blah, blah. So do it, get some things. Okay, you see it works, and this is a nice part. You have your description of your API out of the box, and what can you do with it? It would be used to configure your AWS API proxy or Microsoft Azure API proxy or what you want. Because if you are behind a cloud service, you have to configure it, and you can do it by typing in each value, each BLAFU, or simple import this Swagger file, and all is done out of a box. So, but what I want is to invite you to contribute to the Grape Swagger project, because now we are on the starting point to support Swagger Spec 2. 2.0, and yeah, please feel free to contribute. That's what I want to say.
Hi everyone. I have one quick question. How many of you have mentored or mentor or will mentor a junior developer? Okay, so there's a lot of hands. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is how to keep your junior happy and motivated and productive. My name is Gosia Ksionek. I'm a junior developer at Positionally. But tonight I want to speak to you from a perspective of a person who started learning programming quite recently, and from a perspective of psychologist, because I'm a psychologist by education. I finished psychology at Warsaw University. When I started learning programming, I found it highly addictive. I was working relentlessly. I couldn't sleep without when I have like task undone. I found it so enjoyable, and I was very happy with it. And I started to question myself, why is this happening? Is it only because programming is so cool, or is it something else? And I turned to knowledge from my studies. And what I found out is that all of this begins with this guy. You probably don't recognize his face, but I'm sure that almost all of you recognize the name. This is Ivan Pavlov, and he conducted very famous experiments with dogs and bells. And consequently, he started a new branch of psychology called behaviorism. And of course, I wasn't producing more saliva because of coding. That was not the case. But what was happening to me was explained and described by this guy. This is B.F. Skinner, and he introduced the term operant conditioning into psychology. What is operant conditioning? This is a theory that if the behavior is somehow rewarded, it is more likely to appear in the future and become a common pattern in one's behavior. And this is what exactly was happening to me. This simple satisfaction from having a programming task solved was so satisfying for me that it was my reward. And so I developed this habit of programming every day. And what I want to recommend to you as mentors for juniors, if you have a junior under your wings, as Skinner has his pigeons and rats and cats, what you can do is, for the first period of training, give your junior very small task that will bring satisfaction and the reward very quickly. And of course, you may say, that's not realistic to give just a very small task, very little ones. But what I would recommend, try to stick with the little tasks for a first period of time. And when this habit is set, then you can try to mix the bigger tasks with the smaller tasks, because it is proven that when you have like a habit developed, then irregular reinforcements are expected to strengthen this habit even more. So this is just a little psychological trick to help your juniors fall in love with programming. And if you want to talk to me about programming or psychology, I'll be hanging around tonight, and you can ping me at Twitter at Gosiaczu. And thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.